what might be a preview of the division series in the National League. It's the Atlanta Braves and the Houston Astros. First of a two-game series from the Astrodome. Hi, everybody. Pete Van Wieren welcoming you to Houston. The Braves on top in the East. The Houston Astros on top in the Central Division. Both teams struggling a little bit lately for different reasons. For Houston, it's been their bullpen. Trying to get to Billy Wagner has been a little bit of a problem. For the Braves, as you all know, it's been the offense. But one thing steadily influencing both of these clubs, Don, has been the consistency of their starting pitching.
Boy, hasn't that been the truth, and especially with the Braves and especially with the top four, the Fab Four, you might call them. You see what the team record has been since August rolled around, but if you take the four starters, a 5-3 record, 6 no decisions, they're doing everything you could possibly want out of starting pitching. Pete, it's often been said, and mistakenly so, that you win with pitching and defense. That's not the case. You stop yourself from losing with pitching and defense long enough for the offense to find a way to win. And Bobby Cox has been looking for a way to find it. I thought we had seen just about everything, but I'm not sure we had until tonight.
Maybe the biggest shakeup of the year in the starting lineup. On the bench tonight, Fred McGriff, Ryan Klesko, Michael Tucker, Greg Colburn gets his first start as a Brave in the cleanup spot at first base. Chipper Jones dropped to the number 6 spot in the starting lineup. Should be an interesting evening against left-hander Mike Hampton. We'll be back with all the action from Houston right after this.
Braves Baseball on the Superstation is brought to you by Budweiser, Beechwood Aged for a crisp, clean, classic taste. Budweiser, the king of beers. By the 62,000 professionals at
Keto following in John Smoltz will complete the batting order. The Astro defense aligns this way. It's Gonzalez in left, Carr in center, Bell in right. Some pretty good speed out there. Gutierrez, Bogart, Biggio, and Bagwell from third to first. Brad Osmus behind the plate. And making his 27th start of the year, a left-hander, Mike Hampton. His last 9 games have been good ones. He has a 7-game winning streak with 2 no decisions. The earned run average, an exceptional one. And following a trend set early in the year by manager Larry Dierker, he says, I want my starters to work as long as they can. A lot of complete games in that 9-game stretch for Mike Hampton. The league hitting .253 against him. Got a scouting report from Joe Simpson on him. We'll pass on to you a little bit later on in the broadcast. The umpiring crew for the first of 2 lines up this way. It's Frank Pulley calling the balls and strikes. You will always know how you stand with Frank behind the plate. Bob Davidson down at first, Brian Gorman at second, and Greg Bonet over at third. It's a hot, sticky day here in Texas, in Houston, but you don't really care when you're in the Astrodome because it's always 72 degrees, 50% humidity, and a pitcher's ballpark. And Pete, when you gave me the starting lineup a little bit earlier as we were making out our lineup cards, I had the urge to ask you if you'd like to run through that again, but I knew what you were talking about. And I think sometimes you reach a stage when you're a manager when you say, listen, I got to try something. It may be popular, it may be unpopular. Right now is not a time to try to get voted miscongeniality. We got to figure a way to win.
And figure out a way to score some runs. And one of your old favorites, Gene Mauch, was brought up at today's player meeting. Pat Corrales played for Gene with the Phillies back in the mid-60s, and he was talking about some of the road trips that those Phillies teams used to take when they went out to the West Coast. You'd play in Los Angeles, you would face Koufax, Drysdale, Osteen. You'd go on to San Francisco, you'd face Marichal, Gaylord Perry, back-to-back 5 games in a row. Gene Mauch used to tell his team, look, we're not going to get 10 or 12 hits tonight. We're going to get 5 or 6. When we get them, we've got to move the runners. We've got to figure out a way to score runs on a minimal number of hits. And that's the approach the Braves, although they hope to snap out of their hitting slump tonight, are taking in this game against a red-hot pitcher, Mike Hampton. Make the most of the hits you get. And here's Kenny Lofton leading things off, 343 with 3 homers on the year. Inside from Hampton, 1 ball, 1 strike.
We mentioned a scouting report. Joe Simpson was talking to Larry Dierker prior to the game, and Joe passed it on to me to pass on to you. Dierker is of the opinion.
Here's the 1-1 first to Lofton. He couldn't stop his swing, went around, 1 and 2.
That what they needed to convince Mike Hampton to do was use both sides of the plate. And Mike Hampton at first struggled with that. He was so used to running cut fastballs in on righties and sliders in. So it took a little while, and he got kind of frustrated, got banged around a little bit.
Up the middle by Lofton and through, base hit. Good start for Atlanta as Lofton reaches. Now let's see if the Braves can apply that Gene Mauch theory against this hot pitcher.
After Hampton got banged around a little bit, Larry Dierker went back to him and said, okay, listen, this is not working. can it. Let's try something else. But you can see here he's comfortable going inside and outside, and credit Lofton with hitting a good pitch there. And to Hampton's credit, when Durker said, go back to your old way, he said, no, I know this is what I have to do. I have to stick with it. It took a little while, but it sure paid off in his last 9 starts.
It certainly has. He's won 7 straight. Jeff Blauser, 312 on the year, 14 homers, 59 RBIs. Let's see how the Braves play it here. Gutierrez even with the bag at third. Down low, ball 1.
I think one of the things that opposing clubs are not doing anymore is that they are not really awed by the threat of a Kenny Lofton steal.
Well, you've got one of the tougher guys to go on here. Look how quickly Hampton releases the ball out of that stretch when he uses that slide step. There is literally no time to get a good jump.
And you have a catcher who's thrown out about 45% of the base stealers, including nailing Kenny Lofton 3 times this year.
Here's the 1-1 out of Blauser, and it's low, ball 2, 2-1.
That's the quickest slide step I think we see, and according to our reports on him, you see a lot of pitchers. Remember, Steve Avery suffered when he went to that slide step. According to our reports on Hampton, he does not.
Now the 2-1 offering to Blauser, hit high in the air, deep left field. Back goes Gonzalez to the wall. This one is gone. 2-run homer for Jeff Blauser, and the Braves get it going in the top half of the first inning. And with that home run, Jeff Blauser has tied his career high, his 15th homer of the year. RBIs number 60 and 61.
And hitting under 200 in his last 75 at-bats, you knew that he really wanted to get something going here. There's the old way of pitching. Try to run the slider in on the hands, but that one didn't get far enough inside.
2 runs on the board, nobody out. Andrew Jones trying to snap an 0-for-22 skid. Steps in, bounces the first pitch sharply, but right at Biggio. Throws him out, 1 down. And now making his first start of the season since coming over from the Minnesota Twins, Greg Colbrun in at first base tonight, hitting in the cleanup spot. Since joining Atlanta, Colbrun's gone 2 for 2, both of his hits coming as a pinch hitter. With the Twins, he was hitting .281 with 5 homers. Hampton's first pitch on the way is a strike in the outside corner. 0-1.
Boy, he had a lot of nice things to say. I listened to him interviewed on an Atlanta radio station this morning.
0-2.
Had a lot of nice things to say about becoming a part of this ball club, just hoping he could contribute whatever way, but remembering how it was to try to battle against the Braves and now to be a part of it was exciting.
And down on 3 pitches goes Colbrun. Hampton went outside, then came inside and got him.
3 different pitches, 3 different spots, down and in, and right over the top of it.
2 away for Javi Lopez, hitting .292 with 18 home runs. The day off did Javi a lot of good yesterday. He was unable to start the game on Sunday. Had a severe bruise in the area of his forearm just above the right wrist. Little chopper toward short, charging at Tim Bogar, throws on to first in time. So after giving up the home run to Blauser, Hampton settles down, but the Braves go to the bottom half of the first inning, leading it 2-0.
Modified, a lot bit modified. Batista, Lofton, and Jones in the outfield. Jones, Blauser, Lemke, and Colbrun from third to first. Javi Lopez behind the plate. And an 11-10 record, John Smoltz, but his last 5 have been good ones. He is a part of that group that hasn't been allowing any runs, averaging better than a strikeout an inning and averaging fewer than 9 base runners per 9 innings.
Well, he's been given a couple of runs to work with here in the first inning, and leading it off, second baseman Craig Biggio hitting .311, 17 homers, 70 RBIs, 27 stolen bases, having a great all-around season. In a little bit of a slump right now. He's 0 for his last 9, but hasn't had many of those this year. He'll be followed by Derek Bell and then Jeff Bagwell. And the first pitch on the way to Biggio is hit deep to center field. Lofton playing a deep center makes the catch. 1 down.
See, this is a ballpark, Pete, you can pitch that way. Unless it's Bagwell, you don't want to tempt him up and away. But most of these hitters, you can go up and away, belt high, outer third of the plate. You're either going to get a strike or you're going to get a fly ball to center or to right center.
One gone. That'll bring up Derek Bell. Had a very slow first half of the season, but has rebounded of late. 259 now for the year with 9 home runs. But on this homestand, he's gone 8 for 17.
And some of those hits, big ones, some of those big hits with 2 strikes, too.
Right away, ball 1. He got in a conversation with a writer here in Houston the other day talking about his numbers for the first half of the year. He said, I don't pay any attention to individual numbers. All I pay attention to is how many games we've won. He said, I couldn't tell you what I'm hitting. Outside corner, 1 ball, 1 strike.
I'll tell you what, I can tell you one thing about him. You're going to have to throw it in the dugout to walk him. I think he is one of the most dangerous hitters in the National League, especially with the game on a line. He hasn't had success against John Smoltz, but he's the kind of guy that Greg Maddux calls a hacker. If he can reach it, he'll get wood on it. Sometime.
1 ball, 2 strikes on Derek Bell.
I'm not sure anybody would have gotten wood on that good breaking ball.
Jeff Bagwell on deck. 2-0 Atlanta in the bottom of the first. On the way now to Bell. Off the handle, foul back. Still a ball and 2 strikes. Coming into this game today, the Braves got a little help from the Pirates last night. 4 games up now on Florida. And the Pirates, with that win over the Marlins last night, moved to within 5 games of Houston's lead. So both of these teams in about the same position in their respective divisions. Braves 4 up, Houston 5 up. Strike 3 call, outside corner, Bell knew it. 2 gone here in the bottom of the first.
That slider on strike 2 allowed this to happen. It put breaking ball in his mind, a good breaking ball that he couldn't handle, and I think he was convinced that John Smoltz was going to go back to it to try to finish him off. A well set up pitch and in a perfect spot.
Now Jeff Bagwell, 288, 33 home runs on the year, and he's driven in 105 runs already. But he's too has been in a slump for this club. He's second in the league in home runs, but on this homestand, just 2 for 18. He's second to Larry Walker in homers. He's second in the RBI category to Andres Galarraga in the National League. And never gets cheated. 0-1 the count.
2 of the strongest guys in the National League. The Braves have seen in back-to-back series with 2 of the oddest stances for power hitters. Mark McGwire, Jeff Bagwell. I think it's something you would not teach, but you certainly wouldn't try to change.
Now the 0-1. 0-2. Smoltz overpowering so far in this first inning. Interesting comment from Larry Dierker, who was in the broadcast booth for many years before taking over as the Astros manager. He told us before the game, you know, as a broadcaster, I always used to think that it might be a good idea to give Biggio or Bagwell a day off every now and then. He said, but when you're managing and you see who the opposing pitcher is, I got to have those 2 guys in there. Thus, they have not missed a game this year, either one of them. Here's the 0-2. And away, 1 ball, 2 strikes. A little easier managing from up here.
All the privileges and none of the responsibilities.
Now the 1-2 on the way to Bagwell. Just missed inside, 2-2. Luis Gonzalez on deck for the Astros.
That pitch right there is one of the reasons you might be seeing him with a glove. Remember, he's been hit on that hand a few times. Got that extra padding on the back of the left hand.
Now a 2-2 pitch on the way to Bagwell. It misses low and the count full.
It's amazing the era that we're in right now. Find an injury and you'll find an innovative trainer somewhere who will try to find a way to prevent it from happening again.
I don't know, in today's society, that might be a beeper. Here's the 3-2 now to Bagwell. Strike 3 call, outside corner, overpowering first inning for John Smoltz. A 1-2-3 start with a pair of strikeouts. At the end of 1 at the Dome, it's 2-0 Atlanta.
By the Atlanta National League Baseball Club and intended solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, rebroadcast, or retransmission of the pictures or descriptions of this game without the express written consent of the Atlanta National League Baseball Club is prohibited. It's hard to concentrate and read that, too, isn't it?
A lot of Braves fans here again, as we have seen for the last, 9 or 10 years here at the Astrodome when the Braves come to town. Here's Chipper Jones. New spot for him in the batting order tonight, hitting 6th. 308 for the year, 18 homers, 95 runs driven in. He was 3 for 12 in the Cardinals series. And the count 0-1. All 18 of his home runs have come from the other side of the plate as a left-hand hitter. Will be followed by Danny Bautista and then Mark Lemke. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2-0 Atlanta on the Jeff Blauser first inning home run. It's 1-2.
Boy, Hampton has a good changeup tonight and a good motion with it.
Now the 1-2 is down low, 2-2. The teams that these two clubs are watching out on that scoreboard, the Marlins, of course, are being watched by the Braves. They're at home tonight against the Cubs. Trailing the Cubs 1-0 in the bottom of the 5th. The Pirates tonight, who are chasing Houston, are at home against San Diego. They're up 1-0 after 3. Into right field, not very deep. Eric Bell there for the catch, 1 down. And now Danny Bautista getting the start in left field tonight.
Usually it's said about players who are become role players that the more you see them, the more their weaknesses are exposed. And I think just the opposite is true with Danny Bautista. The more you see of him, the more things you find he can do well. Good speed, good arm, good defensive player, good base runner. And when given the opportunity, has been a good clutch hitter.
See his numbers for the year. And he takes a strike in the outside corner. First time he's ever faced Mike Hampton. A ball and a strike on Bautista. Vasco and Tucker both struggling, especially against left-handed pitching. And both riding the pines tonight. 1-2 the count on Danny Bautista. I think the point you made, Don, a good one to all of these Braves players. So like it or not, we've got to keep experimenting until we find a way to put some runs on the board. Just off the inside corner, 2-2. And there's a message in this lineup, a message to all of these guys who have been struggling. It can't go on forever.
I think there's a guy right there that ideally would like to win and have everybody like him.
Little dribbler down the third base line. Going to be a tough play if it stays fair, and they're going to let it stay fair. And it rolls down past third base. Infield hit for Danny Bautista.
Sometimes it's not how hard, but how well you place it. Right off the top of the plate. Once you hit the plate, and then overspin will take it forward. Hampton probably knows right here he has no chance. Gutierrez knew from the get-go, and they just hope that it will kick outside the foul territory, but it didn't.
Third hit off of Hampton, and it'll bring out Mark Lemke. Lemke 5 out of 9 in the Cardinals series, hitting .245 now for the year. Bautista at first, 1 man out. Same spot almost, but this one foul.
I think the point we were making is that if you're a manager, you'd like to be most popular and most successful. But I think sometimes there comes a time when you have to say, wait a minute, we should be most successful. And I think most popular has to take a back seat. And I believe guys who are genuinely interested in the team concept and winning will understand the move. And the others will get over it.
Well, if anything, Bobby, if he's criticized for anything, it's been for sticking too long with some players when they're in slumps. So he certainly gives every slump-ridden player more chances than most managers would to snap out of things.
Look up players, manager in the dictionary, and his picture's there.
Offensive doldrums that the Braves have fallen into. This has been going on far too long. 1 ball, 1 strike on Lindsay. Here's the 1-1. On the ground to short. Bogart is second one. Biggio on to first. Double play. That takes care of the Braves in the second. Nothing across for Atlanta. We go to the bottom half. Still 2-0 Braves. Braves leading at 2-0. We go to the bottom half of the second. Luis Gonzalez, Ricky Gutierrez, and Chuck Carr due up against John Smoltz. Braves not alone with the struggles they've gone through of late. You look at all of the teams in the National League who right now are playoff contenders. None of them exactly lighting it up with their one-loss record. The hot teams in the league right now are the Philadelphia Phillies and the Colorado Rockies, who are both last in their divisions.
And that doesn't do a whole lot of damage to the front end of the standings. You don't want a slump. And you don't want to struggle, but if you do, if you win, it's because the others around you are doing the same thing.
Luis Gonzalez, 274 with 7 homers on the year. Leads off here in the bottom of the second. High and outside, ball 1. He'll be followed by Ricky Gutierrez. In a revamped middle of the Houston batting order. 2-0 the count. Inside corner, it's 2-1. Same two clubs here tomorrow night. Tom Glavine against Shane Reynolds, and the Braves back home over the weekend against the Reds. Greg Maddux will get the Friday night start against left-hander Mike Gremlin. 3-1 now on Luis Gonzalez. Walk gives the Astros their first base runner of the night. And will bring up third baseman Ricky Gutierrez. Playing a new position. He's normally a shortstop. They've moved him over to third. And Sean Barry has continued to have some shoulder difficulties. And he's done okay over there. He's hitting .281, not a lot of power. He's got 2 homers and 22 RBIs. There's not a lot of power in this batting order after Bagwell. Gonzalez with 7. Gutierrez has 2. Chucky Carr, not really known for his power. Brad Austin's only has 3 home runs. Tim Bogart 4. So you get past Bagwell, and it's a lineup that tries to manufacture runs. Not going to feature very often with a long one. Look out, folks.
It's also the kind of lineup that doesn't strike out much and doesn't walk that much. A lot of times when you get a souvenir like that, you pay for it with a bruised noggin, and that youngster is fortunate that he didn't. A quick reflection.
And a very unexpected souvenir.
And the food is good.
The food is safe, too. Having a perfect evening over there.
Talented fan.
1 ball, 1 strike. Nobody out. Gonzalez at first. 2-0 Atlanta. We're in the bottom half of the second.
That's one thing that the Astros do have is the threat of a steal. I mean, there aren't too many guys on their roster that don't have a minimum of 8 or 9 steals.
Nobody out. Runner at first, 2-2 on Ricky Gutierrez. Down and strikes Gutierrez. Third strikeout for Smoltz.
One of the best sliders we've seen out of John Smoltz all year long. Not just because it's got a good break on it, but because it has a crisp break and because he is locating it in an absolutely perfect spot.
Now a hot hitter for the Astros, center fielder Chuck Carr, 305, 3 homers, 13 RBIs, has an 8-game hitting streak. He's found a new life over here with the Astros after being released by the Milwaukee Brewers earlier in the year, hitting just 130 for them. Fly ball down the line and right. Andrew Jones over toward that corner in foul territory now, has just enough room for the catch. And that's out number 2 here in the bottom of the second. You're right in amongst them over in that foul territory corner. In either corner here in the Astrodome, they've got a new feature. A couple of restaurants have been built.
Just a little room you had. Much like playing that corner in Turner Field and maybe in Philadelphia.
Remember, they used to have big banks of flowers down there in the corners. Now they got people right at field level.
Well, there wasn't enough sunshine to keep the plastic flowers growing, so they opened a little restaurant down there. I think it's called Lefty.
Well, they ought to call the one on the right field corner
Righties.
That seems so logical. There it is, Lefty.
And Willie Nelson entertains there.
Brad Austin is 269 for the year with 3 homers. Fly ball left field. Long run for Danny Bautista. Had him played toward the left center. He's not going to be able to get to this one. It'll wind up being a double for Austin around the third. Gonzalez. One of the few times you'll see the Braves defense fooled by a hitter. Austin normally hits the ball left center to the right field line. This time he pulled it right along the left field line. Didn't hit that hard, but in a good spot.
And one of the few times you'll see a Braves starting pitcher not put the pitch where the defense is expecting. They were defensing for a slider down and away. That was a frisbee that just stayed middle of the strike zone in. That's how he was able to hook it down the left field line.
That'll bring up Tim Bogar, who's become a bit of a folk hero here in Houston. Normally a guy off the bench. He got put in the starting lineup about a month ago. You see his numbers for the year, but in his last 22 games, hitting .365 with some game winners in there. Runners second and third, 2 outs.
Odd man out with the Mets, put on waivers. Astros claimed them. Ended up having to send an infielder to satisfy the waiver claim. But I don't think it's not very often do you find a guy, a backup caliber, who can step in and do so many things that you can find on the waiver wire.
Here's the 1-0. Fouled away. 1 ball, 1 strike. Bogar's entire major league career had been as a utility player with the New York Mets. Had never played in more than 91 games and never had more than 200 at-bats in a season.
What part of the world is he from?
He is from Indianapolis.
I couldn't remember if he was from Texas. I knew it was somewhere in the middle of the country.
But he went to high school in Illinois and attended Eastern Illinois University.
That's pretty much covering Middle America.
He didn't have difficulty getting noticed by the New York Mets. His dad is the scout for the Mets. 2-1 the count. Braves up 2-0 with the Astros threatening here. Second and third, 2 outs. He's down the middle, 2-2.
Guessing slider and didn't get it. Might get it now, though. One of those knee-high outside corners.
And that is strikeout number 4 for John Smoltz. He's out of the inning. Stranding runners at second and third. We go to the third. Still 2-0 Atlanta.
Hamilton of San Diego, the muscle man in the group. He has a couple of homers, and that's a look at our
we got a note today that John's going to be appearing in Atlanta at the America's Greatest Back-to-School Anti-Drug Rally at Walton High School. That'll be Thursday night, this Thursday night, 8 p.m. He'll be there along with former Atlanta Falcon Mike Ken, the reigning Miss Georgia USA, Denisha Reed. Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich will be there, along with others. It's going to be a big back-to-school anti-drug rally. Walton High School, Thursday night, 8 p.m. 274, no homers, 4 RBIs for John Smoltz. 1 ball, no strikes. Up and away again, 2-0. Braves on top 2-0. They've split the season series with the Astros to this point this year, 3-3 against Houston. There's a strike, 2-1.
Each one holding the edge in their home ballpark.
Outside corner, 2-2. Knocks it down, recovers, and throws out Smoltz for out number 1. And back we go now to the top of the order, and Kenny Lofton, who got it going for Atlanta in the first inning with a leadoff single.
That was a 43rd hit for Kenny Lofton this year against left-handed pitching. He's hitting .360 against lefties.
Always a threat to bunt, so Gutierrez plays in at third. Boy, Adam bailing on that breaking ball, 0-1.
Awful Charlie.
Fastball strike is quickly 0-2 on Lofton.
Sometimes it appears that Kenny Lofton is a better two-strike hitter against lefties than he is righties. He seems to almost always make a concerted effort to stay in and wear out that hole between third and short, maybe hang in there a little bit longer against lefties because he knows he has to.
1-2 the count on Lofton. Breaking ball missed, 2-2. Field. 2-man gone. And that'll bring up Jeff Lauser's 15th home run of the year as accounted for the game's 2 runs. Jeff has now matched his career high in homers for the season. He hit 15 back in 1993. His RBI high for the year also came that year. He drove in 73. He's up to 61 RBIs for the year now. 1 ball, no strikes. He is now 9 for 15 in his career against Hampton. That was the first time he'd ever homered off him, but he's hitting .600 lifetime against Mike Hampton.
First time up, they tried to stay inside. A little change in philosophy this time.
1-1, 2 outs, base is empty. Breaking ball away, and he rolls it to short. Bogar on the first for the out. Hampton has settled down. We go to the bottom half of the third. Still 2-0 Atlanta.
Bottom of the third, 2-0 Braves. Let's take a look at our Offense Depot National League scoreboard. Florida with a 6-run fifth now leads that one 6-1. St. Louis had an 8-run second. That's all the goings on there. San Diego and Pittsburgh are locked horns in a 2-2 tie. Colorado is Cincinnati. That one is 2-0. San Francisco is at Philadelphia. Another tie there, 2-2 at the end of 4. L.A. at New York. Pitching is dominating that ball game.
And it's pitcher Mike Hampton leading off here in the bottom of the third. Houston 2-0 Atlanta on top. Hampton takes the strike, a 107 hitter. 6-4-56. 1 ball, 1 strike. Here's the 1-1 on the way, and here's a strike in the outside corner, 1-2. Frank Foley behind the plate. You're going to get some calls if you're a pitcher.
If you establish early, you'll stay in the neighborhood. He'll give you those calls.
Down and strikes Hampton. That's already the 5th strikeout for Smoltz. 1 gone in the 3rd. And we're back to the top of the order, and Craig Biggio will fly to center his first time up.
Smoltz has been establishing the fastball and finishing off with the slider. Tried to establish with Biggio first time he came up, about belt high, out a third of the plate, got a nice lazy fly to center.
That's when you feel John's most effective, don't you?
Yes, I do. I think his fastball is so good, but times he gets away from it. It's almost like he believes in it less than anybody else. But when he is throwing that fastball and getting it popped up, and starting with strike 1 with it right there, I don't care who you are as a hitter, you have to gear for that. He has one of the best sliders in the National League. When he establishes a fastball, that slider becomes twice as good.
Little tap to the left side. Blauser on the first, 1 down, or 2 down rather. And that'll bring up Derek Bell.
See that swing on the slider there? That wasn't necessarily a great one location-wise, middle of the plate. But when you have to gear for a live fastball, sometimes you'll get this kind of swing on a slider that, well, it has a lot of the plate, a kind of a weak one-handed swing. That's an I'm not going to let the fastball get by me swing on a slider.
2 men gone for Derek Bell. Bell was caught looking his first time up. First pitch swinging and a fastball. That's the Blauser. 1, 2, 3 go the Astros. We have completed 3. It's still 2-0 Atlanta. We're going to the 4th inning. Time for tonight's Aflac trivia question. This is a tough one. Who is the only player with at least 5 home runs each at the Astrodome, the Metrodome, Skydome, and the Kingdome? And we'll have the answer for you in the bottom half of the inning. It's 2-0 Atlanta. Andrew Jones will lead off. And here's Don Sutton.
Did somebody make Phil Simmons mad or something? Or did he not get his Aflac T-shirts or something?
You know,
Is it all right,
the
buddy?
questions are supposed to get tougher as the week goes on, but we were off on Saturday and Sunday, so it's doubly tough to start the week here.
First time up, Andrew Jones grounded to second. Jones, Colburn, and Lopez. Hampton has settled in. He's only allowed 1 base runner since the home run by Blauser. That a single to Danny Batista. Off speed and over, and it's 0-1. Andrew Jones very happy to be in the starting lineup. Pinch hitting is a role I don't think he's too happy with. He's tried it 16 times with nothing but frustration. Now back in the starting lineup, finds himself in a hole 0-2. A couple of change-ups to start him off by Mike Hampton. And a fastball up the middle. You know that the pitch that Hampton wanted to throw, but certainly not where he wanted it. 3rd hit of the night for the Braves.
That's a long skid for Andrew. He had been over his last 23 prior to that base hit. And it's an 0-2 pitch to boot. So you know Hampton didn't want to do that with it.
Let me correct myself. That's the 4th hit of the night for the Braves, and Andrew Jones will stand at first for Greg Colburn. He was a perfect 2 for 2 coming into this game. Struck out swinging his first time. Astros shortened up a couple of steps. Colburn doesn't get the first one, and it's 0-1. A lot of people might think that since, or may have forgotten that since Greg Colburn came here from the Minnesota Twins, most of his time has been spent in the National League. He was one of the top catching prospects in the Expos organization for a while. And then claimed on waivers by the Florida Marlins. I remember seeing him down in West Palm Beach when he was one of their top prospects. Had a shoulder problem that caused him to have to move over to first base. And it's a move he has taken to well, has a great reputation as a team player. But in a hole, 0-2. 1-2-3 again. Got him on 3 pitches the first time. Got him on 3 pitches this time. Only 2 strikeouts in the ballgame for Hampton. Twice it has been Greg Colburn. 1 gone in the 4th.
Down and in, maybe not a strike, but with a count 0-2, too close to take for Greg.
And here's Javi Lopez. Braves would rather he doesn't do this time what he did first time. Hit the ball sharply to shortstop. That would almost certainly result in a double play with Andrew Jones at first. He takes a strike, 0-1. For Javi Lopez, the first time up, though, putting it in play was a little bit of a moral victory. He had struck out 6 of his last 14 at-bats. And I'm sure part of that came from being unable to swing the way he does normally with that arm bothering him. Nothing but strikes from Hampton. No balls and 2 strikes. If you're wondering if Andrew Jones will run, yes, he will, and quite successful. He has stolen 17. He has stolen 17 bases just now, really getting his first look at all these National League pitchers. And a peek at what the catcher's doing. 1-2. Remember when he first came up, we caught him doing that, trying to see if a catcher is going to tip off maybe a pitch out, or he doesn't miss much. No. Watch this little peek into the catcher. In the air to right center field. High, but not very far. Chucky Carr says he'll take it. He does. And quickly back in the second, 2 gone.
One thing you notice right away when you come into the Astrodome, if you're a visiting club, you got to be a little careful on fly balls deep to the outfield. That warning track out there is not nearly as deep as the warning track is in virtually all the other ballparks.
That looks like it's only 6 or 7 feet.
Yeah, and if
That's
you're
1 step and crash.
if you're accustomed to having time to take 2 or 3 steps after you hit the warning track before you reach the wall, it's not going to be the case here.
Here's Chipper Jones in the 6th spot. Slide to right his first time up. Got him picked off. Throw to short, and he's out of there. So we said he was still learning about some of the National League pitchers, and that's something he'll write in his book about Mike Hampton. Don't break too quickly. He's got a good move. Nothing doing for the Braves. Astros coming up bottom of the 4th. 2-0 Atlanta. Bottom of the 4th inning. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Braves. John Smoltz working on a 1-hit shutout. Bagwell, Gonzalez, and Gutierrez. Ocean fouled out of play. It's 0-1. You do something if you can shut the Astros down for 9 innings. They have pitched 10 shutouts. They have only been shut out 4 times. So he was telling you earlier about here's a guy with all the power, but they find a way to pester you to death to get runs. They always keep the pressure on.
That's been a trademark of these Houston clubs here in their years in the Astrodome. They've always had ball clubs tough to pitch to, top to bottom in the order. A lot of hit and run, a lot of speed on the base paths.
Foul line to foul line type hitter.
Yep.
A lot of guys with
Don't
line
strike
drives
out
over
much.
short, over second.
This is the kind of player the Astros haven't had very often, the big power man in the middle of their order.
For all the same reasons, I think, and maybe mistakenly so in recent years, for almost the same similar reasons, pitchers don't want to go to Colorado. I think power hitters are reluctant to come here to play. I think Bagwell has proved that not to be the case. On the ground toward short. Bowser takes care of Bagwell. And Smoltz has now set down 5 in a row. The last 3 via Jeff Blauser. And now here's Gonzalez. He walked the first time up. Only one of 2 base runners allowed by John Smoltz. The other one a 2-out double by Brad Osmond. Gonzalez, his second tour of duty with the Astros. Good hitter, play a couple of positions, and well liked. Takes a strike 0-1. He owns the National League's longest hitting streak this year. Very quietly put together a 23-game hitting streak. His demeanor is that he is a very quiet type guy. Out of Tampa, Florida. Now makes his home here in Houston. That was the Colbert. He makes the toss to Smoltz. Like they draw it up in the book, and there's out number 2. Got all the outs in this stretch of 6 in a row set down by Smoltz. Either been on ground balls or strikeouts. Colburn, good speed to Smoltz. Two gone for Ricky Gutierrez. He struck out swinging his first time. The breaking ball for the strike. No balls in 1 strike. 2 out of 6 against John Smoltz. And in a hole, 0-2. Slider that comes in about the mid-80s with a good break on it. And a fastball that jumps up into the 90s. Tough to protect against both. All the way a dandy there, and it's still 0-2. Let's see where Javi Lopez goes on this one. Fastball coming in. And got him. Perfect spot. John Smoltz brings up his 6th strikeout. He has now set down 7 in a row. We're going to the 5th. Rays lead at 2-0. This is the first time this year Chipper Jones has batted in the 6th spot. Most of the time, Chipper Jones has been in either the 3rd or 4th spot. Matter of fact, in looking through our notes here, I can't find any time that he had played when he hasn't been in either the 3rd or 4th spot. So a little bit of a different place in the lineup for Chipper Jones. Fouled away, and it's 1-2.
Pretty close.
Smoltz has dominated from the get-go, and for Mike Hampton, he gave up 2 hits to the first 2, one of them a 2-run homer. And he has overpowered most of the Braves to this point. 2-2. Boy, isn't that a sign, though, of a pitcher maturing in the big leagues, not to get rattled and spit the game just because you give up a couple of runs in the first inning. Another ground ball to short. Another 6-3 put out for the Astros. You see a lot of guys who are learning to pitch. That home run by Blauser would have undone the whole evening.
Well, Hampton's whole career has been one of just making a little more progress each year. He came up originally with Seattle, got banged around pretty good with them, then came over to Houston in a trade, was a middle relief pitcher the first year, then got a chance to start 2 years ago, won 9 games, a chance to start again last year, won 10. This year he's already won 10, so he's just getting better every year.
One of the 4 hits recorded by Danny Batista. Roll over to second. Biggio makes the play, and quickly 2 are gone in the 5th inning. Two outs for Mark Lemke. First time up, he hit the ball sharply, but he hit it right at the shortstop. It became a 6-4-3 double play.
since 1990. But he is still a youngster. A couple of more weeks, he'll turn 25. But when you're 25 and you're making the progress you were talking about, Pete, your ball club's got to feel like you got a heck of a future in front of you. 3 balls and no strikes to Mark Lemke. You'd sure like to get him to have the pitcher lead off the 6th inning. Lemke probably taking, and he is, for strike 1. Hampton out of Crystal River, Florida. That is ball 4. And that's the first walk issued by Hampton. And he'll get the face John Smoltz. I'm sure you would rather have tried to get him for out 1 in the 6th, but now he'll try to get him for out 3 in the 5th. Smoltz first time up grounded sharply to second. He's been hitting a lot of balls that way this year. Tapper back to the mound. This time he'll go quiet. For the Braves, no runs, no hits, no errors, and 1 left. It came on a walk. We're halfway home. It has been a pitcher's duel. It's 2-0 Braves.
When the employees of over 100,000 U.S. companies get sick, injured, or need help shouldering the final
Bobby Cox shaking up his lineup tonight. A lot of right-handed batters in there, and Jeff Glauser paid off with a 2-run homer in the first. That was the only runs of the game. Chucky Carr, Brad Ausmus, and Tim Bogart for the Astros. Carr has an 8-game hitting streak, but fouled out deep to Andrew Jones in right his first time up. Smoltz has been very sharp. Another pop-up by Carr. This one into shallow center, but Lemke says he's got it and does. Nice play. You know, I think one adjustment the middle infielders have had to make is that if there is a difference between Kenny Lofton and Marquise Grissom in center field, is that the biggest difference is Kenny plays deeper than Marquise, and the infielders have had to realize they have got to go a little farther to get pop-up.
I think it bothered them more earlier in the year than it does now, because they've gotten used to the situation.
Brad Ausmus loops a double to left his first time up. Smoltz is in some trouble. Runners at second and third, but he struck out Bogart in the second inning. Well, it's fun to talk to Larry Dierker today. Visiting with him before the ball game, and a lot of people talking about him possibly being the manager of the year in the National League in his first year down on the field.
Wouldn't that be great?
1-2. He said, you know, I got so used to having that great vantage point in the booth and seeing defensive alignment. He said, I can't see anything in the dugout. Can't tell how deep guys are playing, if they're over-shifted. So that's been the hardest part. Oh, boy, what a breaking ball. Ausmus is ducking out of the way. Still not sure it was a strike, but fully rings him up, and that's 7 for John.
Well, Brad would have no idea on this one, because he was bailing big time. Look at the snap on that.
An embarrassing, hopeless feeling. And it's not the first batter that's happened to. Bogart struck out his first time up. One thing that Dierker did tell me that he took from the Braves is defensive alignment, though. He said he noticed how much it paid off for the Braves with their pitchers taking hits away from the Astros at times when he saw them. And they've tried real hard on their scouting reports to set up defensively the correct way, or at least the way the pitchers are going to work that way.
I wonder if next year Milo Hamilton will become the third base coach.
That would be interesting to see. It would be a different configured hat, I think, but I think they could work on it. John hasn't walked it back. batter tonight, but he's behind 3-0. 3-1. I beg your pardon. He did walk Gonzalez leading off the second inning.
But except for that.
Except for that, he didn't walk anybody. Now it's back to 3-1 pitch. Had a good cut. Pete and Don told you the Astros, a lot like the Braves, are both leading their divisions, but both struggling to score runs of late. Braves pitching has been very good. John Smoltz pitching his best baseball of the year, but lost him on a slider. The two-out walk gets Hampton to the plate. Hampton struck out his first time.
Boy, that fun-loving mascot Astro really gets into it, doesn't he, Joe?
Is that his name?
Orbit. Astro.
I think he had strike the first time. Something like that. Hard hit. Pass triple. Base hit for Hampton. The pitcher comes through and turns on one. One of the harder hit balls tonight for Houston. Came into the game hitting 107.
Low fastball on natural grass. Chipper gets to that ball, but not here.
And now you start getting into dangerous territory with runners aboard, even if there are two outs. Biggio has been in a long slump for him. He's 0 for 11. And that's a compliment. He's hitting .309, 0 for 2 tonight. He is lined out, grounded out. That evens the count. Another good pitch. John's throwing hard. He's had a very sharp breaking ball. And for the most part, it's been ahead in the count. Another good breaker.
Might want to buzz a fastball toward the inside part now. They got to be leaning out over their plate.
He did that to Bagwell and did it effectively his last time up. Biggio, though, has been hit by pitches 20 times. He's used to that. Harden's outside, though. And the slider got him. Couldn't stop his swing, and another nasty pitch from John Smoltz, and he's got 8 strikeouts. Astros lead 2. We've played 5, and the Braves on top 2-0. Crew of the Astros out, scratching out, smoothing out the dirt on the cutouts, and they all had on Hawaiian shirts, Hawaiian print shirts. Larry Durker, it used to be a trademark for him, and he was asked once about the Hawaiian shirts, and I think the Astros were struggling. He suggested they all wear them to the ballpark because he said, have you ever seen anybody in a Hawaiian shirt having a bad time?
Good point.
Kenny Lofton will lead off for the Braves. 1 for 2 tonight. Goes bunt and takes a good breaking ball.
But come to think of it, I have. That was Ken Killer Nolan, one of our producers.
I doubt it. Hit hard. This one's past Gutierrez for a base hit. Gonzalez gets it back in, and with Lawson threatening to bunt, he showed bunt the first pitch, drew him in a little closer, and then slapped it by him.
In case you missed it earlier, with Lawson aboard in the first, Jeff Flauser took the pitch down and in and really crushed it high and far into the seat. And that's the difference in the game. So, do it again.
Yeah. 15th of the year. Anthony picked off Andrew Jones tonight. Flauser was going to bunt Lawson over, but fouled it off. Bobby Cox wanting a little insurance. scoring runs, Bobby will resort to just about anything. Bunting again, but Jeff fouls it back again. That looked like a pretty good pitch to bunt. Looked like a fastball up. I guarantee it, if you talk to Jeff tomorrow, if he's not bunting here, if things don't go his way, if you ask him about the home run, you'll grumble something about the missed bunt instead. That just missed 1 and 2.
Pretty close, but it was outside.
The 1-2 farther outside, 2 and 2. Kenny has 21 stolen bases. He's been caught 16 times. Braves have a very good record on AstroTurf this year. They're 19 and 7. Kenny not even having a dive back. He's getting a good read on Hampton.
Houston comes into Atlanta after Cincinnati. Reds over the weekend, then Monday's off, and then Houston for 3. Then we go to Boston.
Slide step, hit right back at him. That hurt Hampton. Lawson's going to go to third. It hit him on his glove hand, and he's got his glove off. It was a line shot, and he'll need to be checked by the trainer. Hopefully it got the glove and not the wrist.
That is a tough way to make a living. You're about 58 feet from the hitter. It looked like it got him off the wrist.
Dave Lavoisier out to check on him. That looked like he got all skin. But he's going to try to stay in there.
Thank goodness for him it was that arm rather than the other one.
What Larry Durkin's thinking too, the way this guy's been pitching. Second hit of the night for Blauser. Runners at the corners though, and nobody out. And Andrew Jones up there snapped out of an 0 for 23 with a hard hit base hit back through the middle his last time up. First pitch strikes to 8 of the last 9 batters he's faced. Big breaking ball. That's the pitch that he likes to use to right-handed batters. That hard slider and a cut fastball. And Larry Durker and Vern Rule, the pitching coach, who convinced him to try to work the outside part of the plate. And that's when his season really turned around, as when he started making that pitch to strike from the outside part. 1-1. Good speed out there. Lawson at third. Blauser at first. Change up. 2-1. Bobby won an insurance run. He's got a great opportunity for one here if Andrews can just hit a fly ball. Vern Rule, they call him the professor. Vern came to the Astros last year working in the minor leagues after being the pitching coach at the University of Oklahoma. Of course, had a very successful major league career as a pitcher.
field. That'll get a run home. Blauser stops at second. It's 3-0 Atlanta, and Andrew Jones has his 49th RBI and his second hit tonight to snap out of his slump. And Greg Colbert will try to add to the lead.
There's the Andrew Jones swing. Funny, of his 3 at-bats, the one I felt best about was the one where he made out, where he hit the ball to the right side instead of trying to jerk the ball out of the ballpark, and the other 2 have been base hits up the middle, and that's what you're looking for, and that's a pretty good sign he's coming out of.
And he hit the first pitch that at-bat also, and I think there have been times where he has been a little bit complacent. Well, that's not the right word. Maybe has waited for the pitcher to dictate an at-bat to him, taking a lot of first pitch strikes. Colburn has fanned twice. 0-1. That breaking ball has been very effective to him tonight.
I think that's Mike Magnanti in their bullpen.
Another left-hander.
Bagwell's convinced he's going to bunt.
Yeah.
He showed no sign of it yet.
Colburn did drop a bunt down, sacrifice bunt in St. Louis. First in 1993. Oh boy. The generous strike call in the corner. But Frank Pulley has been fair to both sides. It's 1-2. Pitch he couldn't lay off of his last time up, but was able to here. It's 2-2. I just noticed, Skip, up on the scoreboard that you can run down to the concession stand and get one of those lovable 1997 Orbit mascot dolls if you'd like one to take home. That's not a bad deal.
I'll get one now.
2-2 pitch. Hit hard and nice play by Gutierrez. Can they turn it into 2? No. They only get 1. Biggio turns and has a word for Andrew Jones. But the way Biggio plays, he can't complain too much about that. That's kind of the hard-nosed style that Craig employs. And all Andrew was trying to do was break up the double play. He didn't know Biggio was going to stop.
I think he's talking more to the umpire about trying to get Andrew called out for leaving the baseline, but he didn't. He slid right over the base.
Plus, Andrew got him with his hand a little bit, too, almost like he was trying to spin him a little bit. The runners at the corners and 1 out. For Javi, who has grounded out and flied out to center. Good play by Gutierrez. He's going to have to turn another one, though. Biggio's relay not in time, and a good hard slide down at second by Colburn. Kept Biggio from being able to get a good throw on that one, and the Braves get another run. It's an RBI for Javi on the ground out. His 52nd of the year, and it's 4-0.
I think Biggio's glad there are 2 out in this inning. It's been like target practice down there. Gutierrez didn't have any choice there. The ball was hit so slowly. You got to give him credit, like Lemke. He turned it, but not in time.
Chipper Jones batting 6th on the order tonight. Fouls 1 off. He's 0-2. With Javi at first and 2 down. Chipper's flag.
Saturday will be on Sports Hub, or on Fox Network, I guess it is. We're on the Fox Network every week now.
Seems that way. If we're working Saturday, I sure hope we get a monitor on the radio for those games.
I'll call Chip. See if he can help. Although you're so good, you don't need him.
Yeah. What do you want?
What do I want? No, nothing. You're just so good that you don't need him.
Derek Bell, Jeff Bagwell, and Luis Gonzalez here for the Astros. Bell is struck out and grounded out. Search for strike. John has done some of his best pitching to Bell. back into pro ball. And
You
here it is a
mean
year
he
later.
wasn't in pro ball when he was at the University of Oklahoma?
No, he was not. In fact, they won a national championship. Well, he was there as a pitching coach. Good thing Braves have got some insurance. Way out of here. 4-1. Fourth home run of his career off John Smoltz. And the 10th of the year.
You know, you'd think he would hit more because when he hits them, they really take off. Fastball right down the middle. I think John thought he'd take a strike. Those aren't the rules anymore. Well stroked.
Deep into the seat. Into that second level. So it's 4-1. There goes the shutout. Now time to work on Bagwell. He was out early, working on his swing with hitting coach Tom McCraw. And he was trying mostly to hit the ball to right field. Trying to make his hands work. Was not taking a big, long swing. Trying to hit the ball out of the ballpark at all. But tonight, a strikeout and a ground out. And again to Blauser. Who throws low, but Colburn digs it out. Nice play by Greg Colburn. Saved Blauser. 1 out.
Jeff sidearmed this a little bit.
Yeah.
Threw a sinker. Good play by Colburn, as Joe said.
That was a good save.
So you said that the first time. You didn't need it, remember?
I just needed you. Glad you're here.
Oh, God.
Gonzalez has walked and grounded out. Came in though on a 200 hitter against John Smoltz. Had a good cut at that one.
Seriously, speaking of Oklahoma, they open against Northwestern. When is that? This week? Saturday. How in the world? School doesn't open until about September 15th, does it, for most
I know.
colleges?
The one of those pigskin classes,
Yeah.
kickoff sessions. I'm not sure what it is. Low roller down the first baseline. Smoltz will take it for himself on the tag. That's the old 1U play.
Yep. Or 1-un, as we call it.
2 down for Gutierrez, who has fanned twice.
Gonzalez, being a competitor, slams on the brakes here. I said, I'm not going to let him tag me, but then he said, wait a minute, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
They won't let me go back. So he said,
Strike to Gutierrez, who has been swinging the bat quite well, but John has handled him tonight mostly with sliders. There's another one. Boy, a beauty. John with a 4-1 lead. Derek Bell there broke up the shutout with the home run here leading off the inning. Got him looking this time. Frank Pulley throws up the outside, and John Smoltz has 9 strikeouts. And we go to the 7th. Braves on top 4-1.
Smoltz has pitched a good deal better. And a strike to Bautista. We've mentioned a wide strike zone when you got the lead in a game like this. That's good news. There it is again. 0-2 the count. One and 2 is the count. They're talking about a new ballpark here for the year 2000 or 2001 in downtown Houston. by the old train station.
As I recall, I saw some drawings on it the first time we were here, and it was an open-air stadium, but had some sort of awning over it or something. Is that right?
I don't know.
Knock off some of the heat.
Full count now, 3-2 after an 0-2 strike. Well, I'll tell you what, if it's an open-air stadium here, it's not going to be a lot of fun. Is that a picture of it? The media guy?
Yeah. Go on.
Bogart at first. 1 out. Bautista is retired.
In the media guide, it's called the ballpark at Union Station. Texas, they don't go for fancy names, do they?
No.
Ballpark at Arlington.
Lemke stands in there. He has walked and hit into a double play. And the slumping John Smoltz is on deck. Strike on the corner, 0-1. Rounded to third. Gutierrez across the diamond and plenty of time. 2 out. Here's Smoltz. If he wins the game and goes hit the time ready tomorrow, with John, you're a walking advertisement as to why there should be a designated hitter. Cold enough, you think?
I think that, yeah, you're going to get a tremendous response from that.
I know I will. The 1-0 pitch. Good eye, John. Way to go, buddy.
What was it he said to you when you came in tonight?
No big news. I'm still batting ninth. Don't argue about that, John.
Get back in there.
2 balls and a strike. Line drive, base hit. Oh, dear.
Hurry, John. Oh. He tore out of the box like a bullet because he was scared to death he was going to be thrown out, and then he realized Bagwell wasn't at the base, so he could go into his base hit trot.
Well, that happened to him a couple of years ago.
He did hit that ball hard. Well, it's good to see that when he's in a slump, he's trying to take a little off his swing and go to right.
Some other guys maybe should be paying attention. Here's Lumpy. Kenny's having a typical Kenny night. 2 out of 3, 2 runs scored. Line drive left center. That's going to get down and roll for a little while. Chucky Carr, a good play. Cuts it off. Lofton cruises into second. And would have been out, but the ball was dropped. See how they score it. For sure, it's the 3rd hit of the night for Lofton. They'll probably give him a double.
It is. And he goes the other way on a high pitch. Maybe Hampton's tiring a little bit. That one was shoulder high. Chucky Carr made a nice play just to keep it from getting in the gap. And Lofton pulled up a little bit as he was getting to second base. That was a very late slide. He might have been surprised a little bit by Carr's arm.
Either that or he's still afraid of that groin, but he's going to re-pull it. And now Jeff Blauser up there in a spot to really do some damage. Vern Rule, the pitching coach Joe was talking about earlier, making his way back to the Houston dugout. No action in their bullpen.
Happened rather quickly here with 2 out. This is something Larry Durker talked about at the beginning of the season, too.
Strike to Blauser.
That was that he wanted to see his pitchers, his starting pitchers, give him more innings. fact that Hampton has been so good over his last 9 starts that he's probably hesitant to take him out of the ballgame no matter what the score or the situation.
Hampton is due up 4th in the bottom half of the inning. Runners in scoring position, but there are 2 out. Just missed outside, 2-1. Frank Pulley's got plenty of help here tonight in the Astros.
It's a little more like it.
3-1. Andrew Jones, who has a couple of hits to his credit, waits to hit next. Lauser will have the hit privilege here. The 3-1. Outside, and the bases are loaded with 2 out. Looks like Magnanti is up again in their bullpen. Second walk of the night for Hampton. Andrew is grounded to second, singled twice. He's driven in a run.
Kind of interesting that he's had Magnanti up. Maybe Durker likes the fact that McGriff and Quesco are on the bench. He doesn't want to give them a chance to come to the plate.
Low and away. 1 ball, no strikes. 4-9-0 for the Braves. 1-3-0 for Houston.
What a big lift for Andrew tonight to contribute.
Upstairs, 2-0. A walk means a run. Greg Colburn waits on deck. There's a strike on the outside corner, 2-1. Bases loaded, 2 out.
Still a good pitch for Andrew to hit here if he'll not worry about so much about the middle of the plate end.
Threw him a change. He was out in front. It's 2-2. Good pitch there by Hampton. Quality major league pitch.
Smoltz has made some good pitches tonight. 3-2 with his breaking ball. This was a 2-1 count. He took a little off, and it was up, but Andrew was out in front and hit it off the end of the bat.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Pop foul back and out of play.
A reminder from Osmus before he threw him a new baseball. Remember, he was giving him almost like he was talking about his shoulders to keep him coming to the plate. He might have felt like Hampton opened up too soon on that breaking ball because it didn't do much to spin.
Another 2-2 with the bases loaded and 2 out. Downstairs, it pops away from Osmus. It's 3-2. If the Braves can win tonight, and if the Pirates continue as they're doing, they lead San Diego 5-2 after 7. Houston's lead will be 4, and the Cardinals would move to within 8.5. They're winning big at Montreal. Florida won their game tonight. Here's the old merry-go-round pitch. He'll work off the stretch, 3-2. Here we go. Strong ground ball to first. Bagwell has it. Pitcher covers in time, and the inning is over. And Hampton does a good job of getting out of 2-out trouble. 2 hits, no runs, no errors, 3 big runners left. Bottom of the 7th, 4-1 Atlanta. Carr tonight has flied to right, flied to center. He has an 8-game hitting streak on the line.
He's come back from an awful knee injury all the way back.
Smoltz into the wind in the 5th. Swung up the middle. Lemke can't get it. Base hit. He's got a 9
play for him to stop and get a real fast runner.
Brad Osmus has hit a pop fly double to left. And he has struck out. They now play him straight away in the outfield. Carr, a big lead at first. The pitch fouled to the screen. He took a shot at right field. And it's 0-1. Bill Spires, a left-hand hitting third baseman, has a bad elbow. Out of the lineup, listed day to day. He would probably be in there tonight if he were able to play against the Rangers. Fouled it away again. Again, he took a shot at right field.
It might be available to pinch hit if Hanson's spot comes up here and they've got a chance to cut into the lead. He might be able to swing the bat. Down the season, high in strikeouts is 10. Did it twice. Both times in late July.
Carr scampers back to first and makes it safely.
Time call is Kenny Lofton's got to get something off the field. I'm not sure what it is.
Now Andrew gets to play Pele. I wonder why people think that's amusing. To slow up the game with a nonsensical little item.
I've always felt like it was kind of funny, but I'm glad it's that, not bowling balls. I never thought that would be really
Or
fun.
batteries.
Bowling balls are tough to throw around in the crowd.
The 0-2 pitch. There goes the runner. Swung and missed. There's the throw. He is safe. Throws into center. Carr hits for third. He is safe. Throw gets away. Carr stays there. Chris Smoltz did his job. Stolen base and an error on Hobby. And a strikeout for Osmus. And there's that 10th strikeout again for Smoltz.
He had a great jump, too. Stood up a little bit on his crossover step. Good pitch for Hobby to throw in, but he commits his 5th error of the year. Blauser, Lemke both came up empty trying to knock it down.
Bill Spires is going to come out and pinch hit here, I believe. He and Thomas Howard are both on deck. I don't know which one's going to hit first, but we'll soon know. Runner third, one out.
See, Spires has that wrap on his right arm. So he's going to hit first.
Infield is back, willing to concede a run for an out. There's the story of your game. Spires having a good year, hitting .324. Thomas Howard is on deck. Spires hits for Bogart. Howard is due to hit from Mike Hampton.
Philadelphia. 8-4 Giants. They're playing good baseball. Lewis is homer there. A tie game at New York between the Dodgers and the Mets. Two doubleheaders in the American League. Toronto and Chicago. Toronto won the first game. And in Game 2, Chicago trying to come back. The other doubleheader, Baltimore clobbered Kansas City in Game 1. Game 2 not yet underway. Minnesota lost to Detroit. Milwaukee leading Texas. The other games out on the West Coast.
Okay, Joe, thank you. And Mike Magnanti is on the pitch. Bill Spires stays in the game. Bad elbow and all to play shortstop. Magnanti's done all right. Another beach ball has been thrown onto the field by the idiot in right center. Magnanti 3-0 at 2.25 earned run average. He's out of Glendale, California. Been with Kansas City throughout his major league career. Signed by Houston to a minor league contract last December. Colburn waits and takes outside. 1 ball, no strikes. Coming into the year, Magnanti 10 and 18 with a 4.40 earned run average. All with Kansas City. There's a breaking ball down and in. 2-0 the count. He's out of UCLA. On the corner, Colburn, not too sure about that. It's 2-1.
Magnanti likes to work down and away, has a good sinker. Slider just to keep the right-handers honest, but would rather work the outside half of the plate.
Looped into short right field. That's going to dunk in there for a hit. So Colburn has his first hit of the night. He's 1 for 4. And a good start for Atlanta in the 8th inning. And Javi Lopez is the batter. You know, with Colburn, Lopez, Chipper, and then Bautista, you're right. They must be afraid of bringing a right-hander in. You get McGriff and Fusco in the game despite the troubles they've been having.
But I think they're going to get a right-hander up now. They just called John Hudek up in Tucson.
Breaking ball strike. He's the guy that had a rib interfering with his circulation. They had to take the rib out, and they made a necklace out of it. My thought was, thank goodness he wasn't plagued by hemorrhoids. It is he warming up in the bullpen. Right down the middle. Javi never offered out.
Javi got caught guessing. Magnanti stayed with the fastball and delivered one right down Broadway.
By the way, Hampton, 7 innings, 9 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 1 homer. The 12th he has surrendered this year. Chipper Jones, 0 for 3 on the night. Hit the ball hard as last time to right.
First inning home run by Blouse has kind of helped the Braves offense a little bit. Didn't exactly unleash the Lions, but I think helped everybody relax a little bit to be more aggressive against Hampton.
0-1 the count. Atlanta. We're in the 8th.
Bowser hits a homer in the first inning. 15th of the year.
And can they get a double play? They can't get anybody. See how they call it. Tough chance for Spire. But if he comes up, he's got the play at second. It's an error.
Yeah, if he had corralled this, most definitely he would have had the out. Even with a sore elbow, he didn't have a long throw to make. But it was bouncing around on the turf and off his knee, and he tried to throw it before he really had it.
Brad Ausmus goes to the mound, maybe to buy
get him back the way he was before the surgery.
So again, the Braves have a chance to break things open a little bit here. They've out-hit them 10-4, but where it counts, it's just 4-2. Low and outside, 1 ball, no strikes. Colburn runs at second, Schiffer at first. Swung and missed, looked like a splitter. Something off speed, and the count goes to a ball and a strike. It's raining in Oakland, of all places, where Boston wants to play.
Braves had a chance to really blow this open last inning, but it came with 2 outs. Had the bases loaded, and Andrews grounded out. Hopefully they can take advantage of this opportunity to get a little insurance.
Oh, what a cut he had, and a pitch up in his eye. A ball and 2 strikes. Bautista, a nice young man. And he is so grateful for all the cards and wires and letters and flowers that were sent to him after his injury last year. The 1-2. Swung, a fly ball pretty well hit the right, but playable. Bell is there. Colburn tags. Here's the catch. He's coming over. And the throw will be cut off, and they're on the corners with 2 outs. And it's all up to Mark Lemke if the Braves are to score here. The Lemmer 0 for 2 with a walk. But he's been getting some big hits lately, so there's hope.
Had a good series in St. Louis, on 5 for 9. Has been much more comfortable from the plate right-handed this year, and his swing has been quicker right-handed. Been turning on the ball a lot more from this side of the plate.
Boy, he's got an acre of room on the right side of the infield. He can guide one over there. He'd be in business. On that outside corner, that would have been a good pitch to steer that way as it works out 0-1.
And you kind of like, you're talking about that room over there, you kind of like Schiffer just staying put at first base. Don't even think about stealing. Just keeps that hole a little wider and gives him a bigger area to poke one through the hole.
He's got that semi-balk move with Bob Davidson here. That would be a nice way to get an insurance run.
Yes, it would.
Missed out there. It's 1-1.
Mark has the luxury after these first 2 pitches have been down and away to maybe look for one out there. While he's still only got 1 strike on him.
Oh, Frank Pulley flinched, but didn't pull the hand up.
Take another look and watch Pulley's right hand. Raised up off his knee and looked like he was about to call it a strike.
Lemke doesn't like that one, so everybody's unhappy.
Braves are 1 for 5 with men in scoring position tonight, and just 7 for their last 49. They have scored 4 runs tonight.
With 2-2. 3-2 now. The runner will go from first.
is trying to do a little too much here with Magnanti.
Yeah, he might have. He takes everything. He might be at first base right now.
Base hit would certainly give him some breathing room, and he's going for the whole bundle.
The 2-2. Fought off a breaking ball. Still 2 balls, 2 strikes. Kenny Lofton would be next, but there are 2 out here. Tomorrow night's game here will not be on CBS, but Ernie and Bob will have it for you on Fox Sports South. For those of you in the Southeast. Another 2-2 pitch. Swung, grounded to short. Should be out of the inning, and they are. For the second time in as many innings, the Braves lead the bases loaded. 1 hit, no runs, 1 error, 3 big runners left again. Bottom of the 8th. It's 4-2 Atlanta. Over to Chipper's head. Blauser will never throw him out. Infield hit. And here's Bell, who homered his last time. First pitch swinging.
Braves had the lead all night long. They had it cut out until Bell homered leading off the 6th inning. But boy, leaving the bases loaded each of the last 2 innings without a run. I don't care if the Astros have been in a slump or not. It's kind of scary.
Asking for trouble. Hudak in the bullpen. Bell stands in. Biggio on deck.
Saw that pitch total on John. It only took him 18 total pitches to work the last 2 innings.
Line, base hit. Tying runs are on with nobody out. The first one just an AstroTurf single. The second one a rope.
First pitch line drive. Jumping on that first one. John's done a good job of throwing first pitch strikes tonight, but now he faces a guy that's in the top 10 in so many different offensive categories. It's tough to list all of them, but among those, take a look at that. And also among the league leaders in slugging percentage and runs scored.
Pick-off play. Boy, good throw maybe. Biggio was really wandering around at second base. A perfect throw, and that's a bang-bang play, as you see.
Well, we were told that Biggio's been playing like a man possessed on the base pads.
Strike call. He stole 3 bases Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. I watched most of that game.
He is tied with Larry Walker in that category.
Embry and Fox in the Atlanta bullpen. Excuse me, Joe. Fair ball into the corner. 1-run score. Here comes Bell. He'll be stopped at third. It's 4-3. The tying and leading runs are in scoring position. Bagwell drives in run number 106.
Bobby rolled the dice, kept letting John hit for himself because he's pitched so well tonight. Had the bases loaded in the top of the inning, but he's come out and made a couple of pitches to the center of the plate, and the Astros jumped on him, and maybe John's lost a little on his fastball here in the 8th inning as well.
Bobby Cox on his way to the mound now. Bautista did a good job of getting to that ball and keeping the tying run from scoring, but there is nobody out. And there, it's second and third. Gonzalez, Gutierrez, and Carr, the next 3 hitters. On their bench, they have nothing but right-handed hitters. James Mouton, Sean Berry, Tony Eusebio, and the veteran Tony Pena, picked up just a while back by Houston.
I think Bobby wanted to know firsthand get through this inning, to get him out without any more run scoring? Does he have anything left? And was reassured that he feels fine.
They're going to put him on to load him up. Third walk of the night for Smoltz, and it's intentional.
Now they're not. Why did they change?
I don't know. The stretch. Long popped up. Left side. Chipper coming over near the dugout. He cannot get there. Boy, that was funny. Unless Javi forgot.
Well, what was funny to me was that John went on. He towed the rubber to get the sign. Saw Javi giving the 4 wide one sign. And then John stepped off, looked in the dugout, and then nodded like, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden, Javi's back behind the plate, putting the signs down again. I'm not sure who got crossed up there.
The 0-1 pitch. Low and inside.
But John definitely looked a little surprised when he saw Javi giving him the let's put him on sign.
The 1-1 pitch to Gonzalez. Swung foul back. Boy, a strikeout would come in handy here.
Be huge. Absolutely huge.
And you have Gutierrez next, who has struck out all 3 times. So this could be a very big pitch in the ball game right here.
Only 50 strikeouts for Gonzalez and 440 at-bats this year. Tough to fan and opens his stance up even a little bit more. He just wants to put the ball in play, the infield back. Scott.
Oh, what a pitch. Off slider down and in.
That's been his best pitch tonight, though. Slider. And he started it more or less at the inside corner and then had it break down and in, and Gonzalez had no chance.
I guess it's safe to say it was a good thing they didn't walk it.
Yeah.
And Gutierrez is the batter. See how the infield plays it now with 1 out. Mike Tubbage runs through the signs at third. They could squeeze. Try to get the tying run home.
His strikeout totals have been up, and his numbers have been better. His last 5 starts, an ERA of 1.98 coming into the night start.
Gutierrez was 2 for 5 against Smoltz until tonight. Line to left. He's going to get a double play, and the inning is over. I don't know where Bagwell was going, except I was so intent on scoring what might have been the winning run. So Smoltz shows a lot of cool as he gets out of that miss.
And Blauser rolled his ankle a little bit on that play at second base, Skip. I hope he's okay.
Another look here.
Watch Blauser on the tag at second.
Yeah, right there. He turned it over. We go to the 9th inning. It's still a 1-run Atlanta game. Lofton tries to bunt his way on. Pretty good one. Hudak has no play. And Kenny has his 4th hit of the night. And a good start for Atlanta in the 9th inning. Hudak just recalled from New Orleans on the 15th of the month. Now Lofton appears to be hurting. Boy, that Astros there.
His 11th bunt hit of the year. Like I said, he got called up from Hudak got called up from Tucson earlier. That used to be their farm club, and then New Orleans, as you mentioned.
But they were probably in Tucson when he got called.
Yeah, that's probably the same thing.
Yeah. Blauser the batter. Started to bunt, a strike to 2-1. 11 hits for the Braves. That's the most since they got 14 on July 21st. Mark Wohlers in the bullpen will probably come on and pitch the ninth, and I see Rafael Belliard moving around in the dugout. He may take Blauser's place defensively after he turned that ankle.
Jeff just rolled his ankle on the side of the bag.
Yeah, looking at the ball and feeling for the bag. It's easy to see how that could happen. Blauser is 2 out of 4 with 2 driven in and 2 scored.
John Smoltz did a great job of getting the strikeout, and then he got a break.
Yeah, Gutierrez hit the daylights out of the ball, but ran at him. Good bunt. Bagwell has the 1 play. Biggio covers.
Jeff seemed to be getting down the line pretty well. Watching him run down the line, and he's jogging back to the dugout okay.
He's got a little hitch in it, though, I think. Boy, a base hit here would be nice. Andrew Jones has a couple of them tonight, 6 for 4.
Bobby checking with him as he came back to the dugout.
Runner at second, 1 out. Tell the folks about your radio interview the other day with Greg Maddux. Some great things he has to say.
Well, it was fun to listen to him talk about winning and competing, and also about his contract. I asked him if signing a new deal had made him feel that he had any self-imposed pressure on it. He said, I'm glad we got it signed. I was looking forward to it. I enjoyed it. He said, I spent my time enjoying it. Now it's time to get on with it and pitch again. I appreciated that coming from him.
2-0.
He also said, competing and winning, is that where you derive your greatest pleasure in this game? He said, you know what? I enjoy watching the game. He said, if I feel like I can pick up